Om Bhadram Karnebhi Shunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pasyema Akshabhirya Jatra Sthirairange Stushtuvam Sastanubhihi Vyasema Devahidam Yadayu Sustina Indro Vruddhasavaha Sustina Pusha Vishwavedaha Sustina Starkshu Arishtanemihi Sustino Brihaspadir Dadhatu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Almighty Lord, auspicious sounds may we hear with our ears, auspicious forms may we behold with the eyes. May we, full of praise of the highest, enjoy in healthy body and with perfect limbs our allotted years. May we be the beloved of the Almighty. Now, in the last session, we were discussing a very important subject related to Vedanta. The 5 dimensions of the human personality, from the grossest, the physical, then the psychological, the intellectual, and ultimately the spiritual. The Panchakosha it is called. It is said by modern interpreters that all the human beings in the world are at different stages of evolution. Some have reached only the physical level. Those who consider themselves to be just this physical body. So far as they are concerned, Annamaya Kosha, the grossest dimension, is the only human personality. And as we evolve further and further, we get a closer glimpse of the Absolute. And as we get closer and closer to the reality, we also evolve. Now, that's we discussed in the 11th verse of the 3rd chapter of Gaudapada Karika. Rasadayo hi ye kosha vyakhyada taitriyake. Taitriyakam is Taittiriya Upanishad. So, Kosha means the 5 koshas, Panchakosha Vishagalana, or the discussion of the 5 levels of human personality, the 5 sheaths within which the Supreme Self is clothed. That's the idea behind. Tesham Atma Paro Jivaha Kham Yatha Samprakashitaha. Now, in the next 12th verse, there is an equally important discussion. Here also there is a reference to a very, very important aspect of Vedanta. Doyor Mathujnani Param Brahma Prakashitaha Prithivyam Udare Chaiva Yatha Akasha Prakashitaha. This is the verse. The prose order is this. Yatha Prithivyam Udare Evacha Akashaka Prakashitaha Tatha Mathujnani Doyoho Param Brahma Prakashitam. This is the simple description in prose order. So, here, just as Akasha, the space, which is in earth, and also it's a discussion, whatever is within the microcosm is within the macrocosm. This is an important principle in Vedanta. We are all small units of the entire cosmos. This may appear to be slightly puzzling, but you find in the writings of Shankaracharya's philosophy and his life. And also more recently in Swami Vivekananda's life, you find this. When Swami Vivekananda was traveling the Himalayas, very close to the Almora region, he happened to sit in meditation in a particular spot, which was surrounded by dense forests. And there he had this inner intuitive experience. He had the practical experience of the unity of the individual with the cosmic, with the universal. The microcosm and macrocosm are the same. So Swamiji said they are built on the same plan. So the space within, the description by Peirce as that of space akasha, which is in the earth and also within all human beings in the stomach, applies equally to the supreme Brahman described in the Madhu Brahmana. Now I shall explain this. This needs a little explanation. Madhu Brahmanam is an important part of the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. In the Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, the second chapter, fifth Brahmana, these Upanishads are, some of them, not all, are divided into chapters, and each chapter has got minor sections. Each section has got several verses. And in the Upanishadic tradition, there is an interesting point to remember when we decide the antiquity and the authenticity of the Upanishads. The more ancient Upanishads are more or less in prose, and here and there in metrical form also. But they do not conform to the standard metrical forms, because in Sanskrit there are many meters, but they evolved during the post-Vedic, during the post-Upanishadic period. So Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya, belonging to Yajurveda and Samaveda respectively, are among the most ancient and among the most important of the Upanishads. In Brihadaranyaka, there is one particular section. It is the fifth section or fifth Brahmanam, it is called. The section is called Brahmanam of the second chapter. The discussion is Madhu. Madhu actually means honey. So the whole section is called Madhu Brahmanam. Now, the literal meaning of Madhu is honey, but here a particular form of meditation is implied. So you find in the Upanishadic literature a number of meditative techniques, modes of meditation, methods of meditation are explained. In Shankaracharya's language, it is called Upasana. Sometimes it is called Vidya. Upasana is a kind of meditation. What is the purpose of this meditation? That is very important to understand. The Upanishads ultimately proclaim that the absolute reality is impersonal, in the sense it is beyond the personal, attributeless, in the sense it is beyond the attributes, not devoid of personality or devoid of attributes, but transcending the limitations imposed by a particular name or form or dimensions. So the ultimate reality is acosmic, impersonal, attributeless, immanent, omnipresent, and transcendental. It is called Paramatman. As the indweller in all beings, it is called Atman. As the cause of the universe, as the essence of the universe, it is called Brahman. They are the same. Macrocosm and microcosm are the same. Now, it is not possible for every human being to reach this level of experience. You try to explain to any ordinary conventional thinker, if he is a believer in, he or she is a believer in God, many people that will be shocked if you tell them that the absolute reality of God is attributeless and impersonal. Because we always want to understand the absolute in our own terms. So Swami Vivekananda, referring to this particular aspect, says, if a bull has got an idea of God, it will be a mighty, powerful bull. If a cow thinks of the Almighty God, it will be a very, very big cow. So every human being tried to anthropomorphize or tried to give a personal dimension to the absolute reality. Because that's how we can understand absolute reality. You find in India, of course in every country, there is a group of people whose only occupation for the last perhaps 2000 years is wrestling. Now for those people, who is the supreme deity? The two great wrestlers of Indian mythology, one is Hanuman, the other is Bhima. They were the two great wrestlers of mythology. So these professional wrestlers worship these deities, because that is how they understand the absolute. So we always try to posit a superlative dimension whenever we think of the absolute. Now, it is psychologically very difficult for anyone to understand, even to think of, the absolute reality as beyond name, form, and characteristics. So it is very difficult to reach that stage. Even intellectually to understand, it is very difficult, and much more difficult to really experience it. So the Upanishads have laid down a number of meditative techniques which form some kind of a halfway house to reach the supreme goal. So they often describe a number of methods of meditation of the personal, as a concept of God with a name, form, certain characteristics, whom we can understand, whom we can look upon as our protector, as the creator of the universe, as one who listens to our prayers and who rewards for our good deeds, and whom we have to be very careful because he will punish us if we do something wrong. Because this is very natural. So the Upanishads lay down certain meditative techniques. These meditative techniques are called upasanas or vidyas or meditative techniques, methods of meditation. There are innumerable. Altogether, there are 32 important methods of meditation, mostly described in the two of the largest Upanishads, Brihadaranyaka and Chandogya Upanishad. Brihadaranyaka belonging to Yajurveda and Chandogya belonging to Samaveda and other Upanishads. Altogether, there are 32 methods of meditation. And if you include all the minor methods of meditation, there could be more, there could be innumerable, almost 108 methods of meditation, including the minor ones. There are sometimes, for your information, Udgita Vidya, Shandilya Vidya, Madhu Vidya, Dakara Vidya, Bhuma Vidya, Panchakni Vidya, Vaishwanara Vidya, Samvarga Vidya, Upakosala Vidya, Vaishwanara Vidya, and so number of meditation techniques are called. I'm just giving, I can give an example. Now, there is an interesting dialogue in the Chandogya Upanishad between Narada and Sanat Kumara. in which Sanat Kumara, the great teacher, preceptor, teaches Narada what is called known as the Bhuma Vidya. Bhuma means something grand. Bhumaiva sukham na alpe sukham asti. This is the essence. See, there is no pleasure, no joy, no happiness, anything that is contracted, that is small, that is limited. There is joy, there is contentment only in something which is expansive, grand. So the whole reality is looked upon as something infinitely great, all-encompassing. When Narada came to Sanat Kumara, the teacher Sanat Kumara put a question to Narada. What have you studied? Narada asked, in fact, requested his teacher to teach him the truth, the supreme knowledge, which takes him across the ocean of worldly misery. See, for any thinking, philosophical oriented person, this life, being born, dragging on with this physical body, going through innumerable miseries and then sometimes little joy, this life is something totally undesirable. It is something that we must that we must transcend, that we must get away from. It is not something enjoyable. So, Tarati Shokam Atmavid. Narada makes a statement. Somebody who knows, who realizes that we are the Atman, we are the supreme consciousness. We are not the psychophysical mechanisms. We are the supreme self, the Atman, the universal reality. That person goes across, he goes beyond the world of miseries. Because we are what we consider ourselves to be. If we think we are the physical body, then we are not very different from insects. Insects also are born, they live maybe for a few minutes or maybe a few hours and then they die out. Human beings may live for 100 years. So what is the basic difference from a purely philosophical point of view? So the ancient sages said, this life in which we look upon ourselves as this physical body is not a very happy experience. It is something that we must transcend. So the moment a person realizes that he or she is something other than the physical body, which comes and goes, that he is the eternal consciousness, something which remains alive even when the body perishes, which has no death. That moment we transcend this world of misery. So please teach me that truth. That is the request that Narada put to Sanat Kumara. Narada is the name of the disciple. He himself was a great sage and one of the well-known figures. So in answer to this, Sanat Kumara first asked Narada, what have you learned? Because Narada was already famous in the world as a great sage, great philosopher. So in fact it was Narada who taught Vyasa, who instructed Vyasa to write the great spiritual classic Bhagavata Purana. So that Narada himself was in a state of utter misery, confusion. He was terribly upset. So he wanted to get that knowledge which takes him across this ocean of life, death and rebirth. So when he put this request to Sanat Kumara, what is the nature of the supreme knowledge? Sanat Kumara asked him, what have you learned so far? So Narada gives a long list of different branches of learning that he had already mastered. So the 4 Vedas and large number of secular topics, including astrology, mathematics, all these are mentioned in this ancient work. Physics and architecture, music, and so on. All these are mentioned. Metallurgy, all these are mentioned. Loha Vidya, it's all mentioned. Astrology is mentioned. So, all these are mentioned. Then, Sanat Kumara tells him, all these are only words. You have learned so much. You are a master of so many branches of learning. What are these? Only words. After all, if what we learn is only intellectual cognition, then what is that learning other than just a bunch of words? Nama eva. That was Sanat Kumara's response. You have learned all this, but these are only sounds, words. Because there is an inner truth behind these words, that is inner experience, which you have not got. You have mastered all this, but these are only words. If this learning, the secular learning, this mastery of different branches of learning is devoid of any kind of inner experience which gives you an inner contentment. Then Sanat Kumara teaches him. And then he says, everything, so that's called, that in fact, that branch of, that mode of instruction is called Bhuma Vidya. And then Narada is taught to meditate upon the meaning of the statement. Now again, such you can, Varuni Vidya is there. I can give, and I have already explained this earlier in the Taittiriya Upanishad. A small boy goes to his father. Here, he requests his father, please teach me the truth behind the whole universe. Please teach me, Adhihi Bhagavo Brahmeti. Please teach me the nature of Brahman, the origin of the universe, the sustaining principle behind the universe, and the point of dissolution of the universe. So father told him, you look at this universe. Annam pranam chakshusrotram mano vachamiti. Yato va imani bhudani jayante yena jatani jivanti yet prayanti abhisamvishanti. Tad vijijñāsasva, tad Brahma. I should translate it in English. See, the father tells the boy, look around. What do you see around you? You see the mountains, valleys, San Francisco Bay, the Golden Bridge, everything you see. Have you ever thought where they come from? What is the original cause behind all this? Do you know how they exist? And do you know what is going to happen to them in future? What will be the ultimate destination? Try to understand that. How? Through meditation. The method that is taught is the method of meditation. Now, this was taught by the father, whose name was Varuna. So it is that this particular method of meditation came to be known as Varuni Vidya, means a method of meditation taught by the great sage Varuna to his son. What is a method of meditation? Just think of the origin of the universe and try to turn your mind inward, and through meditation you will be able to understand this. And gradually, first the boy thought it is the matter that is the essence of the universe, the origin of the universe. Then he thought it's vital energy. Then he thought mind. Then he thought intellect. Father corrected him, you are wrong, go ahead. And ultimately the boy reached the final goal. He said, it's the inner bliss which is the essence of the origin of the universe. When he reached that stage, he became silent. He had the intuitive experience which cannot be explained in words. So this came to be known as Varuni Vidya. So Now, what is the purpose of this kind of methods of meditation? This method of meditation enables you to turn our mind and senses away from external objects and concentrate on one sublime object. So, the senses, the five senses of perception, eyes, ears, sense of touch, sense of sound, sense of vision, sense of smell, all these five senses of perception and five senses of action and mind, they are always distracted. They take our attention towards external objects. Now, mind should be withdrawn from these external objects, and mind should be focused on one sublime object. That will make us enjoy tranquility of mind. So whenever there is distraction, there is conflict and confusion and restlessness. Whenever there is concentration, there is peace, there is restfulness. So we need an object of meditation. It could be a sacred symbol like Omkara, Om. It could be a prayer from the Bible, the teachings of Jesus Christ, Buddha, Krishna, Shankara, or Sri Ramakrishna, any of the great spiritual personalities the world has produced. You will read their works. There are some sublime statements. If you just meditate on the inner meaning or the essence of these statements, it becomes a great help. It enables us to withdraw our mind away from external things, from distractions, from confusion, and it will help us to turn our mind inward. This is called meditation. Now, Madhuvidya is an important, in fact that is what is referred to here in the 12th verse. Dvayor madhujnane. Madhujnane means in that instruction in which this particular mode of meditation is taught. What is that? It said, this earth is the honey. Honey actually means the effect of all beings, and all beings are the effect of this earth. Practically everything is in everything. You look at honey. Now, honey is the effect, but it also contains all the honey particles that these bees might have gathered from different flower plants. So the whole is in parts and parts are in whole. The macrocosm is in microcosm and the microcosm is in macrocosm. What we have within, that is within the cosmos. What we have in the cosmos is within our own inner essence. That's how what we are within, accordingly we visualize the world. Every person creates his own or her own world, depending upon the world in which that person is living. So for every person, the world in which or she lives is his own or her own creation. So as we evolve further, our understanding of our own being evolves. When we realize that we are the sublime eternal Atman, then we also realize the same Atman is the all-pervading reality. So, this is taught in Madhuvidya by a great sage. The mantra, because Shankaracharya, the great philosopher, has written a small minor poem called Haristuti. In that verse, Shankaracharya says, the great Indra, a mythological figure, he used to repeat a famous mantra, Ayam Atma Brahma Sarvanubhuh. This mantra means this Atman, this self, the perceiver of everything, is Brahman, the supreme reality. The Atman within is the supreme reality. The microcosm is macrocosm, and the macrocosm is microcosm. By meditating on the inner meaning of this mantra, the Indra reached such a high level of concentration that he forgot everything else. He remembered only the unity, the ideal of oneness, the unity implied in this. So himself became one with the reality. So in Vedanta, there is one important principle. This knowledge in Vedanta doesn't mean objectified knowledge, not a perceiver knowing something about an object. That's not what is implied. At the highest stage, the perceiver of the knower becomes one with the known. The knower becomes one with the known. It's called Brahmavid Brahmaiva Bhavati in the Taittiriya Upanishad means. This is stated here. When we realize the supreme truth, what do we realize? What is the nature of that knowledge? When we look upon an object, when you switch on the light, you suddenly become aware of the existence of certain objects in a room. That is knowledge, of course. That is objectified knowledge. But there is always a difference, a distinction between the subject and object. The perceived object and the perceiver remain different, one from the other. But in Vedanta, in spiritual knowledge, what is the nature of experience or knowledge? The one who experiences realizes that he or she is none other than the reality that is known. The knower becomes one with the known. That is the idea behind. So, by meditating on this unity of the individual self and the universal self, that spiritual seeker ultimately realize his own unity, his own non-difference or non-distinction with the supreme universal self. That is the idea referred to here. So you find here, Dayor Madhukyane Param Brahma Prakashitaha. So this reality, this unity is explained in this particular chapter in Brihadaranyaka Upanishad. Perhaps this needs a little explanation. I would like to wait for some time. If you have got any point to be discussed, I can discuss, because we will have no class for the next 2 weeks. Our next class will be on 3rd May. So we have covered quite a large portion of this text during the last several months. So if there is any important point to be discussed, I can please any.
I get the impression that, the worldly man, the materialist, require the gospels and wealth. They're never satisfied with enough. They want, it seems that they want more possessions, and a lot of times they travel the world. They travel to many countries. I've known some other people with expensive boats and yachts, and they travel all over the world, kind of in search to fulfill that inner need. Where the sages oftentimes don't even leave their own village or country, but they find the whole world they're doing. They find completion.
You find it the contentment.
They find contentment.
Yes.
It's almost like the universe resides within them also. So they're not seeking outside themselves for satisfaction.
Well, there is no relationship between the amount of enjoyment or happiness or worldly pleasures that we enjoy and wisdom. Sometimes you find a 6-year-old boy like Shankaracharya. He left his home after mastering all the branches of learning. He left his home and went in search of his teacher, traveled 1200 miles through dense forests and mountains and caves and valleys and reached. So how do you explain this phenomenon? So that will take us to the concept of rebirth, because what we see, we are puzzled. We are not able to explain this mystery because we look upon human beings only from the perspective of this life, and this life is only the tip of the iceberg. Otherwise, how do we explain the diversity of human character, taste and temperaments? So people who have not enjoyed anything in their life, who are not being billionaires or millionaires, still feel, well, there is not much in these worldly pleasures. There is something far beyond all. It's not that they have enjoyed everything and then they graduate to the level of contentment. No. Very often it doesn't really happen. When people try to seek joy and happiness in worldly pleasures, their desire for worldly pleasures only increases. It doesn't decrease. In a Sanskrit verse, it is said that if the fire is burning, you cannot put out fire by pouring ghee into it. The fire will burn with the great. It become blazing fire, all-consuming fire. So you can't do that. So by enjoying more, we cannot graduate to the level of complete satisfaction. So at one point of time, we should have the wisdom to tell ourselves, yes, enough is enough. But very often it doesn't happen. It happens to some people when they are very young. And we in Vedantins explain this in the light of, and also Buddhist religion, Buddhism also explain this in the light of previous life. If you find a child who is quite philosophical, who has a philosophical turn of mind, who is satisfied, not interested in this, it means that child has already outgrown that stage of enjoying the physical world in the previous life. That's what it means. So we can never enjoy more and then reach a stage of complete satisfaction and then evolve to the next stage of spiritual wisdom. It never really happens. I think it's clear. Right. So if there is anything to be discussed, I can discuss. Otherwise, we will continue. Please. Yes. But they were experiencing extreme library, days and nights, and really totally outside time and space. And the researchers were nice enough to give a verbatim statement of some of these meditators, and it's just incredible. It was just literally based in night. It's almost like a different world. I can't even put it into language. Have you personal experiences? Have you find say anything about light experiencing this? Well, we normally don't discuss our personal experiences in a public class, but Upanishads do explain this. In the Atharvaveda Upanishad, there are many references. That feeling that jyoti, the word uses jyoti, mean the light. So, and Suvarna Jyoti, that's Taittiriya Upanishad uses the term. So, at the level of a very high spiritual experience, one feels a unity with light. There is an experience, a vision of light. But it only shows that we are on the right track. This is not the ultimate goal of spiritual evolution, according to Vedanta. According to Vedanta, one even goes beyond this stage where the seeker experiences or sees lights. But it only shows that we are on the right track. And again, the bliss, it's not enough to call it happiness. That may be too weak a term, no, inadequate a term. Maybe bliss may be a better term. That bliss, the inner bliss, is one sign of spiritual growth. Inner, deep-rooted feeling of blissfulness. Well, beyond that we cannot explain. Those who have reached that stage have come back and were silent. So all the Upanishads also make this statement. Beyond this is silence. Because the highest experience can never be explained. Experience in the true sense of the term can only be experienced. It can never be explained. And what is explicable, what is within description or definition, is always limited. And what is unlimited is always beyond description and definition. This is true of the great mystics and in all through history, in all religious spiritual traditions you find. The highest mystics, the most highly evolved spiritual personalities, at one point they become silent. Not that they become mute, not that way, but they would say about that experience they won't say anything. That's idea behind. But there are some visible signs. The feeling of inner contentment is one sign of spiritual growth in all traditions. Because in Vedanta, the absolute reality, Brahman or Atman, cannot be explained, but the Upanishads or the books make an attempt to explain, and that attempt is Satchidananda. Sat means existence absolute. Sat means existence absolute. Chit means consciousness absolute, and Ananda means bliss absolute. So that blissfulness is one sign of those who are sincerely seeking it. But we get an experience of inner joy, not just joy, but inner joy or contentment, which has got one unique character. It gives us the feeling that there is nothing beyond this to be sought after, to strive for. That is the real sign of contentment. That's a real sign of spiritual growth. The 13th verse is just a restatement. There is nothing special in the statement. That is, Jivatmanoho ananyattum abhedena prasasyade nanattum ninjade yaccha tadevam hi samanchasam. Jivatmanoho ananyattum abhedena prasasyate nanattum ninjade cha iti yat tat evam samanchasam. This is just statement. The simple meaning is this: the identity or the unity of the individual self and the universal self, the microcosm and the macrocosm. This is explained, described again and again in all the great scriptures, and there is also a constant repetition of the idea that wherever we see plurality or multiplicity, it is due to error, it is due to ignorance. Wherever we see unity and oneness, it is due to knowledge. So, this is a very important factor. There is an evolution from many towards one. And that evolution is also the evolution from external towards internal, and evolution from gross to subtle, the evolution from many to one, from multiplicity to unity. This is the idea behind. So, in terms of modern religious terminology, it is the evolution from pantheism, polytheism, and monotheism, and culminating in monism. Because even in monotheism, there is the distinction, the difference between the creator God and his creation. But in monism, the creator is the indweller in his own creation. Because who is the creator? The Supreme Divine Spirit. That's the idea behind. The Supreme Divine Spirit, the consciousness, it is present, it is the indweller in all beings. At this stage, there is perfect unity. Now we are coming to the next verse, that is 14th. Jivatmanoho prithaktuam yat pragutpattehi prakirtidam bhavishyat vrittya gaunam tat mukhyatvam hi na yujyate. Now, there is a very important idea explained, mentioned here. It has got special, reference to the concepts of creation or Genesis. You find in many of the Vedic texts, including some Upanishads, creation of this world is explained. There are many in the Taittiriya Upanishad you find. Tasruštva tadevanupravishat, all you find. So, there are many statements in the Vedic or Upanishadic texts where creation is described. Does it mean that God, the absolute reality, is somebody who creates this world and stands outside? It is true. That idea of God is true, but only from a relative point of view. The Upanishads never decry, never negate, never deny, never refute any of the non-Advaitic, non-dualistic concepts of God. That is one uniqueness of Upanishad. Upanishads will never tell you that you are wrong, your view is wrong, the one particular view is wrong, this view is right. What the Upanishad says is, wherever you find multiplicity or plurality, it is only from a relative point of view. That is a stage that you have to outgrow, you have to go beyond that stage. That's what the Upanishads say. So, Vivekananda's concept of universal religion, the whole creation as an expression of the one divine spirit. Therefore, every religion is true. Because every religion is true, because all religions are only attempts to explain the inexplicable. Each religion has made its own contribution, but religion as religion is only a relative phenomenon. It is not wrong, but there is a higher stage which every religion is only trying to reach. The other stages, the other statements are right, but from a relative point of view. But this is explained here. So, whenever there is a statement related to description, creation of the world, those statements are to be taken only in a relative sense. The idea is this. The Gaudapada Karika is a commentary on the Mandukya Upanishad. Upanishad speaks of the highest reality as one supreme, immanent, transcendental omnipresent reality. Now, this is the final word of the Vedic literature, Vedantic literature, the conclusion or the essence. But there are other branches of Vedas in which there are statements which are very similar to all the scriptures of monotheistic religions. In Hinduism, you find there are many Puranas, and what they call the earlier texts of the Vedas called Purva Kanda, mostly dealing with rituals, multiplicity of gods and goddesses, and different rituals, different sacrifices to be performed to please them. And you find such ideas in all other, in the Abrahamic religions, and practically all religious traditions are full of such ideas that we must pray to God, we must make some sacrifices, gods are many, and the God is one who creates His world, who supervises and who punishes us, and who divides mankind into believers and non-believers, rewarding the believers with heaven and punishing the non-believers with eternal damnation. Such ideas are there. Such ideas are found in some of the texts in the Vedas. They are called Purvakama, I mean the earlier portion of the Vedic literature, mostly dealing with rituals and mechanical performance of sacrifices. That is a reference here. So this statement, this Upanishad says, the mantra says that wherever there are statements related to separateness of individual soul and universal soul, in the ritualistic portion of the Vedas, in the non-Upanishadic portion of the Vedas, we had to take them only in a figurative sense. They are only figurative statements, more or less like mythology. They should not be taken as the last word of the Vedic literature. The last word, or the conclusion of the Vedic literature is contained in the Upanishads, which speaks of the absolute reality as one universal truth, which recognizes no distinction between the individual self and the universal self, which is built upon the principle of unity and oneness of creation and existence. So it is a reference to those portions of the Vedas in which multiplicity is referred to, plurality is expounded. So this 14th mantra says, in this 14th mantra, Gaudapada says, those ideas should not be taken seriously. They are only figurative statements. This is the idea behind. So, in the Vedantic tradition, wherever there is a conflict between the statements in the Upanishads and the statements in non-Upanishadic portions of the Vedic literature, the non-Upanishadic portion should be discarded, and the ideas of unity, oneness of existence explained in the Upanishadic literature should be upheld as the most authoritative statements. That idea is explained in the 14th verse. Okay. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.